Hi, televiewers of my media Prime Television, and happy week start from us. It's our favorite bilingual program, The Brief, where we always get to dig several layers beneath the major headlines as captured by newspapers. On today's edition of the program, the newspapers are focusing on the flood which hit Buea, chief town of the southwest region, recently, killing 2 persons and wounding several others, as well as structures destroyed. We shall talk about that in this edition of the program. The visit of the mayor, the governor, and the DO for Buea subdivision, who went visiting victims at the level of the hospital, as well as evaluating the site, or going to the site where people were affected. We shall talk about that. What's next for Buea when it comes to town planning, as we are reading in the papers this morning. And see in this edition of the program, the funeral program of late journalist Martinez Zogo is making headlines in the papers, as the family member or the widow, as well as the children of the late journalist saying, or have declared the half-sister of Martinez Zogo persona non grata. We shall talk about that in this edition of the program. Etape Quentin is with me in the studio. Let's have the headlines in the French language newspapers. Bonjour Etape.
Bonjour Lasha. Nous sommes lundi le 20 mars 2023 et c'est la première édition de ce bulletin d'information consacré à la revue de presse de votre programme Débrief. Mesdames et messieurs, merci de nous avoir choisis pour cet autre exercice. Commençons très rapidement avec la nouvelle expression qui nous parle de cette inondation qui s'apparentait à un torrent de boue. Le bilan est de 1 mort et plusieurs nombreux dégâts matériels. Et plus loin, le journal estime que ces pluies diluviennes qui se sont abattues sur la capitale de la région du sud-ouest sont survenues samedi dernier, dans la semaine dernière. Et puis, le même journal nous informe sur la CEMAC. Touadéra hérite des réformes. Assemblée nationale, vie et mort de Bernard Essomba. Conférence sur le journalisme. La presse bâillonnée. Coupe du monde 2030. Espagne, Portugal, Maroc en trio d'attaque. Et puis suivons cet exercice de ce matin avec le journal Le Zénith qui titre à sa grande une: Palais présidentiel de Mvomeka, grosse panique parmi les personnels. L'énorme roue d'un tracteur défectueux s'est détachée du corps de l'engin et a roulé sur la cour de la présidence du chef de l'État, son Excellence Paul Biya, semant ainsi la peur et la confusion totale. L'engin emprunté à la commune de Meomesala grâce à la médiation du directeur du cabinet civil à la présidence de la République, Samuel Mvondo Ayolo, n'a heureusement fait aucune victime. Et puis, au plus bas de sa page, le journal s'intéresse également à l'affaire Martinez Zogo et titre: Sorcellerie à ciel ouvert, Martinez Zogo à nouveau torturé. Nous y reviendrons dans quelques instants seulement. Au moment des décryptages, ce sont des informations à retrouver dans les colonnes de la page 3 et 4 de ce journal en kiosque ce matin. Parlons à présent politique avec la météo qui revient sur la présidentielle 2025, certainement pour annoncer des événements majeurs quand il devient inarrêtable. L'on parle comme ça de Frambia qui a sa photo au fond du journal. Selon nos confrères, en page 3, malgré la haine orchestrée par certains élites du Ndiaye Lobo à l'endroit de Frambia, les mouvements qui soutiennent l'idée de la candidature du fils aîné du chef de l'État ne se laissent pas distraire, bien au contraire, ils avancent la preuve. Les fébistes annoncent une grande campagne d'inscription sur les listes électorales dès le 1er avril prochain sur toute l'étendue du territoire national. Et puis continuons avec Econews qui s'intéresse fondamentalement à l'économie et plaque à sa grande une: nouveau dirigeant à la tête des institutions de la CEMAC, le chantier des promus, de nouveaux hommes au top management des institutions communautaires de la CEMAC, à la présidence et la vice-présidence de la communauté économique et monétaire de l'Afrique centrale, à la vice-gouvernance de la BEAC et à la tête de la commission de surveillance du marché financier d'Afrique centrale. Ces dirigeants ont du grand à moudre sur quel levier exactement devraient-ils le plus insister au cours de leur magistère. Décryptage à retrouver dans ce journal en kiosque ce matin. Le même journal s'intéresse également à la monnaie communautaire et intitule « Les chefs de la CEMAC prolongent la réflexion en vue de la réforme du franc CFA ». Plus loin, le journal parle également des ramassages d'ordures. Le manque de gazole perturbe le ramassage de ces déchets qui inondent les villes du Cameroun. Et puis terminons certainement avec le quotidien Camarouès qui nous parle aujourd'hui de la coopération bilatérale et injecte à sa grande une le Minmesa et le Canada réaffirment leur excellente relation. Si l'on s'en tient aux détails qui sont inscrits dans les colonnes des pages de ce journal en kiosque ce matin, en date du 16 mars 2023, le ministre des Petites et Moyennes Entreprises Achille Baslecan III a reçu Madame Lorraine Anderson, au commissaire du Canada au Cameroun, qui conduisait une délégation du Québec composée à son tour de M. Ia Touré, délégué général du Québec à Dakar. Cette audience de près d'une heure de temps avait pour articulation le renforcement des relations commerciales entre le Québec et le Cameroun, tout en densifiant les relations bilatérales entre les deux pays. Mesdames et messieurs, fin et stop pour la lecture des unes en langue française. Découverte actuellement de ces tabloïds en anglais avec toi, Lasha. Good morning once more again.
Thank you, Etape Quentin. Thank you to televiewers of My Media Prime for staying tuned with us. Let's kickstart this morning with the Post newspaper. The Post newspaper is taking us to Buea, chief town of the Southwest region, to talk about floods that hit the city of Buea recently, killing 2 persons. The Post newspaper this morning is telling us that the mayor of Buea promises demolitions as floods give Buea a run for its urban disorder. 2 dead, several injured, enormous property damaged. Mayor orders free treatment for hospitalized victims. DO urges respect for municipal building plans. And still in this edition of the Post newspaper, university student amongst 3 youths killed by uninformed officers in Buea. Get full details in this edition of the said newspaper, talking about the 3rd-year student at the level of international relations and conflicts resolution of the University of Buea, who was tortured or allegedly tortured to death by police officers in Buea. Controversy sets in over Martinez Zogo's burial program. We are told by the paper that the burial of Martinez Zogo, station manager of Amplitude FM in Yaoundé, who was killed in January 2023, has become an issue of debate in the past few days. The controversy over the the burial of Martinez Zogo has raised dust, especially over the social media, of who is fit to put forward a burial program for the journalist to be laid to rest. On March 14, a program said to have made public by Zogo's half-sister, as we are told on social media, indicated that the late station manager of Amplitude FM will be laid to rest in April 1 in his native Etam Kuma village, Leke division of the Center region. Still in this edition of the Post newspaper this morning, case of 40 bikers in Bamenda. After 1 year, government releases 5, but whereabouts of 15 others still unknown. Get full details in this edition of the Post newspaper. We are now with Newswatch newspaper this morning is interested in Martinez Zogo affair, wife Lekie Elite disclaimed funeral program by his sister, maintain no justice, no barrier for Martinez Zogo. After creditworthiness audit, Port Authority of Douala scores grade A. Pan-African rating firm Bloomfield recommends Port Authority of Douala to investors banks. Get full details in this edition of the newspaper after the creditworthiness audit that was done by the said institution. On to the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post this morning is taking us to the Southwest region to talk about suspected Amber fighters that have buried Presbyterian Church Congregational chairman alive. The Congregational chairman in Chang Village in Manu division of or Meme division of the Southwest region was reportedly buried alive, as we are told. Get full details in this edition of the newspaper. The Guardian Post is also reporting on the recent audit at the level of the Port Authority of Douala. Pan-African Financial Rating Agency scores Port Authority of Douala high. Full details of the rating in this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. We end this morning with the Horizon newspaper. The Horizon is taking us to Buea to talk about floods which hit that city. The Horizon this morning tells us severe floods killed at least 2 persons in Buea. In Meme division of the Southwest region, we are talking about Bakundus, the Bakundus people. 2 chiefs for 1 stool, writes the Horizon newspaper. Benjamin Mutaga Etoe called to order by Meme SDO. You cannot claim the horrific title or honorific title of paramount chief of Bakundus, given that there is a second class to bear it as well as the first class chiefdom. Get full details in this edition of the newspaper talking about the outing of the senior divisional officer for Meme division, calling Benjamin Etoe to order over claiming the honorific title of paramount chief of the Bakundus people. Still in this edition of the newspaper, Abdul Karim Ali at Yaoundé military court today. The Muslim scholar who was arrested in Bamenda and taken to Yaoundé will appear before the military court in Yaoundé today. Full details in this edition of the Horizon newspaper. Thank you, televiewers of My Media Prime. We are back in the studio to continue with our discussions this morning. We are joined this morning by 2 lawyers, one a human rights lawyer and another a constitutional lawyer. Maitre Tanfu is with me in the studio. He is a member of the Nigerian and Cameroon Bar Associations. We equally have Maitre Alex Ndive joining us on the line to UK, and he is a constitutional lawyer. Will be giving us his take on what he thinks about the recent happening in Cameroon, especially the upsurge in the violation of rights or fundamental rights of citizens in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. We begin with Barrister Tanfu Richard, who is already in the studio. Barrister, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Lasha Kingsley. Good morning to all the viewers for this program. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Barrister. There has been an upsurge in the rate of violations of fundamental rights of citizens in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Civilians shot and killed. We take the case of a professor in Bamenda who was shot and killed by suspected Ambazonia fighters. Over there in Chang Village, we are told the head of the congregational head chairman was buried alive by suspected Ambazonia fighters. And a third-year student of the University of Buea at the level of the Faculty of International Relations and Conflict Management was reportedly tortured to death by alleged police officers. Barrister, so much is happening. We've also seen a military officer who is also a traditional ruler emerging on videos, stepping on corpses of alleged Ambazonia fighters. What is your take on all these issues happening in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon?
Yes, just to say that the security situation is very, very challenging, and the government is unable to reassure Cameroonians that wherever they are, they can live freely, they can feel secured. We know that all these are happening as a result of the ongoing conflict in the Northwest and Southwest. These are the consequences of the war, and is however regrettable because innocent persons have to lose life. The situation about human rights violation is becoming very deplorable, whereby people think that they are above the law, whereas in a state of law, the rule of law should be respected and every citizen should feel protected by the law. But we have the impression that some people are above the law. Others even act within the auspices of government officials, because when you look at some of the videos that are circulating on social medias, you have people priding themselves about acts of xenophobic actions, priding themselves about torture or inhumane treatment given to some persons which they tagged as separatist leaders. So at the same time, those persons are acting as the judge, as the investigator, as even the god of those persons. So it's however regrettable, and it's not somebody else's responsibility. It's the government of the republic that has the obligation to secure the lives of Cameroonians. They should make everything possible that the security situation is under control and handled, and they should make sure that whosoever is found maybe wanting with respect to the laws of Cameroon should be brought to the appropriate judicial authorities for fair trial. Because you highlighted in the newspapers that a student of the University of Boya was arrested, and when you read further, when you investigate that situation, you understand that the persons who arrested him is what they call the military service, what they call Semil in Boya, where he was arrested by the elements of that unit. But we don't know under which circumstances the person had to lose his life. Maybe the person went through torture and inhumane treatment, because after that we even saw how the lifeless body was displayed and all the like. So just to tell you that we live in an environment which is very hostile.
Because the newspaper talked of uninformed officers,
yes,
allegedly tortured to death.
Yes, but I am giving you...
What were they supposed to be informed about? About the situation of the guy probably having real links with Ambazonia or separatist fighters in the bushes, or what were they supposed to be informed about that they had to torture him, as per what the newspapers are saying this morning, that it is uninformed or uniformed officers that tortured him to death?
I am giving you the information with authority. Those two students were arrested by elements of the Semil in Boya. One of them is still there presently, whether it's Gires, something like that. One of them is still being detained. So they were arrested by elements of Semil, that's the military security or the military police. So maybe after arresting him, he had to go through torture or maybe inhumane treatment, because that is not a service that has the competence to investigate. When they arrest like that, they have to present the persons maybe to judicial police officers for interrogation. So maybe the guy could not withstand the trauma and the torture in their brutality, and he had to pass away. So I think when they say uninformed officers, because they don't want to maybe say things as they are. We have seen even on a video where Chief Moja in his attitude is portraying those corpses, climbing on them with his legs.
But those corpses that he was stepping on were not corpses of the Linus and one other person. We're told that an Ambazonia camp was raided while Moja was part of the military operation that raided the Ambazonia camp, and those separatists were killed, and two of them were taken from that camp and brought for display, where Moja was seen in that video.
Yeah, it's just to tell you that the human rights situation in those two regions is very, very deploring. We have reached a peak whereby human life means nothing. Even if somebody is suspected to have committed the highest crime of this earth, I don't think that's the treatment that person should be deserved. That person should at least have the opportunity to defend himself. That person can be arrested, presented to the judicial
let's
officer.
assume that it happened during crossfire and they were killed during crossfire.
then why then displaying the body and making a mockery of it? I think if the persons were killed maybe in a crossfire and it happened, then the person should be buried. But when you come and you present the corpse and you still give another treatment to the corpse, I think it's very, very inhumane and not proper for the eyes to see. So if it was on a crossfire, it's a casualty, the person should be buried.
Barrister Tamfu, you are leading a group of lawyers against the said individual. You said it's a military agent and, of course, a traditional ruler. You are leading a group of lawyers. You dragged the said military officer to the military court. Where are we with the case?
Yes, Mr. Ewume Eko John, alias Moja Moja, is being dragged before the competent Cameroonian authorities, but we have the impression that things are not moving forward. We have the impression that he's instead congratulated in his activity, because ever since we have filed actions against him, he continues in all impunity doing what he knows best. And we see that he's doing it with the support of the authorities in Buea, because how do you explain that a military personnel like that will be parading the streets of Buea with heavily armed soldiers without being questioned? You have the sentiment that he's having the backup of the regime, because our complaints have not moved any way forward. He continues in his atrocities and in his xenophobic actions in all impunity. A city like Buea, where you have the governor, how do you explain that Moja Moja will behave that way and he's not being intimidated? And what is regrettable is that the image of the Cameroon military is tarnished, because he harbors the Cameroon military uniform in perpetrating his actions, and even the gun that he's holding, those are Cameroonian property. So not only is he tarnishing the image of the Cameroon military, because many have the impression that he's a militia in the Cameroon army. So the impression that we have is that...
Has there been any hearing since you filed in the complaint?
Nothing has moved. So we are still expecting that the competent authorities should take the necessary action. At our own part as lawyers, we don't have a mastery of the investigation that's ongoing. What we could do is to file the complaint, denounce the atrocity. They have all the videos and everything. So we expect them to do the proper investigation and, if possible, refer the person to court so that the person can have a fair trial.
Okay, Maitre Tamfo, I'll come back to you. Alex Ndive, you are also joining us this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to your televiewers. I want to start by sending my condolences to the people of Buea, especially Bonalionga, where is my village, for the atrocity that happened in Buea. It's always a pleasure to be on your program.
Yes, Maitre Alex, let's talk about the floods yesterday before we get into other human rights violations in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. What do you have to say regarding this flood that happened yesterday, a few days ago in Buea?
It's a very sad incident, and I've seen a lot of people have been making commentary on where to apportion the blame. It's natural disaster. Yes, a natural disaster can still be prevented. It is very possible, or reduce their effect. Where I live at the moment in the United Kingdom, I can go on a government website, I can check flooding in certain area. At the moment, there is one warning of flooding, 14 alert. Governments are there to govern a country, and where they are there, they have to make policy. It is not a surprise that these things happen. I understand some people are blaming people for building houses in certain places. No, that's Buea, that's Bonalionga, my village. That's where I come from. And these places, this happening from time immemorial. So it is not strange. And I understand that the image that I saw, the video, the people who are supposed to be governing that country, I expect to see the military, the police doing what the civilians are doing. There is an absentee government. Usually what happens in such a situation, the police will come and seal those areas and ask civilians to move away. But you can see, civilians are the ones governing the country. These people react, they are not proactive. So that's my concern. When people are in power, they are there to make policies. You are in government, you are there to conduct government policy, action and affairs of a state. So to me personally, I will apportion most of the blame to the people who are running the country. I always say, when you are in government, you're not going there to sleep on.
No, Maitre, if you are warned, if you are told not to construct in an area that is a risk zone, and you go constructing,
Mr.
how is
Lasha,
the government?
Can they tell you not to steal? Do they need to tell you not to steal? These people, you need planning permission to do certain things. And I don't know either the governor or the mayor, they give that authority. A house cannot be constructed in 2 seconds. Before a house is constructed in an area, that house must have been there for 1, 2, 3 months, maybe more than a year. So we cannot blame the people. Are the authorities, were they not seeing the houses? Do they not know those houses were not supposed to be in that place? I was recently, when I was in Cameroon last year, I went there, they were inaugurating the Synod building. Do you have people who are experts who come and look at this area before you build houses in certain places? These things are very important. The area, Bonalionga, which is my village too, those places are, usually there used to be places, the part that the water takes and come down. I don't understand how the government deals when it comes to flood. In the UK, we have National Flood Forum. When such things
No,
happen,
we have a department. We have a department at the level of the Ministry of Territorial Administration, Civil Defense Department.
Mr. Lasha,
We've always seen
67% people are aware about flooding. But you have government website. If you Google, you will see things, how to alert warning. And recently, as I speak, the UK government is looking how to make a certain form of alert that if there is a risk wherever you're living, they can send a message for you to alert you personally on your mobile phone. We are part of the Commonwealth, the Francophonie. When we meet these people, they have all this technology. Don't we meet them and ask them, how do you do this? Can you assist us to have certain technology or information? Unfortunately, most people are not aware of that. Our people are ignorant. I'm saying even in the UK, 67% of the population, they are not aware of flood. Not to talk of our country. So I'm sure the government needs to do much in this area. And I don't think the government is doing enough. And again, I heard the mayor of Boya is talking treatment in the hospital for those who are victims of the flood. I was born in Boya, and let me tell you, the hospital was free. So I don't know why they are charging people in hospital. The hospital now, the government have taken over most hospitals that way. Free when I used to go there. We never used to pay a dime. And today I can read from the BBC website, people are being locked up in prison, in the hospital as prison when they don't pay their bills. So the government should look into this thing. There is a lot of work to do in that country, and people think that when you're in a position of authority, you just go there to steal money. No, you're there to govern, you're there to work for the people. The people are the sovereign people.
Okay, Maitre, I will come back to you. Barrister Tamfu, you quickly give your take on the situation in Boya before I give the mic to my French colleague.
Yes, I would also like to use your platform to extend my sincere sympathy and condolences to the bereaved family and to all those persons who lost properties. It's really sad that we are living in a global climate change environment. I think that it's high time that we pay more attention on the consequences of climate change. We should do proper studies. Those who are into the field should be able to report or give updated information to the government on how we could prevent some of these natural disasters. So what happened is simply because we were not prepared. It took us unaware, and we're not able to prevent it. And also not forgetting that there is also a very poor town planning as far as construction is people are constructing in Boya.
No gutters in Boya.
Yes, so the issue of a poor town planning can also aggravate this kind of situation. People are just allowed to build anyhow. and the government does not educate the citizens on where to build, because if there was proper town planning and citizens were educated on the reasons why they should not build on those areas, maybe when we have these natural disasters, we'll be able to maybe limit the damages that it may cause. So it's high time that we invest more on the studies about global change phenomenons. It's a global preoccupation, and I think Cameroon and Boya in particular should not be left behind.
D'accord, maître barista Tanfou Richard, une fois de plus bonjour.
Bonjour.
Eh bien, essayons de changer le thème pour parler maintenant de l'affaire Martinez Zogo. Selon les dernières informations, après les tracasseries subies par son corps, ce sont ses obsèques qui font actuellement l'objet des querelles dans sa famille suite à la sortie du programme de ses raisons funèbres par sa sœur. Et puis, les avocats de la veuve menacent de porter plainte. Quel est votre décryptage sur cette actualité?
Bon, je pense que dans une famille, il y a une chaîne d'hérédité ou bien une chaîne de succession. Et je pense que si Martinez Zogo était marié et s'il avait des enfants, je pense qu'il appartient à ses enfants qui sont des héritiers de pouvoir décider de comment est-ce que leur papa, ses obsèques seront organisées. Maintenant, si la sœur qui vient même dans la chaîne successorale, qui vient un peu plus loin derrière, parce qu'après les enfants qui héritent, il y a les parents de Martinez Zogo, s'ils étaient encore en vie, c'est ceux-là qui devraient avoir une voix avant que maintenant la place peut être donnée soit aux sœurs ou aux oncles. Donc si peut-être ce n'est pas fait comme ça, si les enfants, peut-être s'il avait des enfants majeurs, que ça ne vient pas de le programme de ses obsèques, ne vient pas ou de sa femme, parce que si il est légalement marié avec cette femme, elle a aussi une voix. Comment est-ce que ces obsèques doivent être organisées. Donc si c'est ses sœurs qui viennent faire cette manipulation, ça ne pourra pas marcher. Je pense que ces avocats qui sont sur le dossier savent exactement peut-être comment est-ce qu'il faut, parce que ma mémoire me dit que ce corps est sous-scellé. Bon, je ne sais pas si on a déjà décelé le corps, parce que si le corps a été mis là, je pense que c'est même ces avocats-là qui avaient demandé que le corps soit scellé. Bon, si le corps n'est pas décidé, comment est-ce que la sœur pourra faire
le programme?
They said the half-sister was parading corridors of power in Yaoundé, negotiating, begging for money to organize the funeral. I just wanted you to clarify this, to tell viewers, in this kind of situation, who is the rightful person who takes the decision for who to be buried?
Like I was saying, that Martinez Zogo has a family, and his immediate heirs are his children. If you are legally married and you have children, when you die, I think the legal persons to speak are your children. So I don't know what is the voice of the children. I don't know what is the voice or the position of the wife. And after that line, you have the parents of Martinez Zogo. If the children are not there, for example, you have the parents. After the parents, now you have the sisters or the brothers, and then the uncles or auntie. So if the sister has to just pop in,
the brothers and sisters, but not you have immediate sisters. We are talking about half sister.
So you see that's a troublesome person.
Coming
so
from
another
mother.
If that's even a half sister, then it's a troubled person. So I don't think her voice should even be heard.
En clair, elle n'a pas consulté les véritables ayants droit avant de poser l'acte. Comment comprendre ça? Qu'est-ce que ça peut présager?
Bon, vous voyez déjà que ce dossier est beaucoup agité.
Oui.
Il y a beaucoup de manipulations dans ce dossier. Peut-être c'est le souhait des autres personnes qui veulent qu'on oublie cette affaire, parce que vous savez que ça a beaucoup fait bruit. Peut-être on veut déjà oublier, et peut-être il y a des manipulations derrière. Ça, ce sont des suppositions, je ne sais pas. Je suis pas.
Ce sont des hypothèses.
Des hypothèses, voilà. Donc peut-être elle soit manipulée et on lui pousse de poser certains actes alors que en principe ça ne lui revient pas. Est-ce qu'elle a consulté les enfants de Martinez Zogo? Est-ce qu'elle a consulté son épouse? Est-ce qu'elle a consulté les familles, les proches membres de la famille? Puisque si c'est une demi-sœur, je ne sais pas quelle a été sa motivation.
D'accord. Je pense qu'on va engranger sur un autre sujet avec la permission du coordonnateur principal. Voilà. Parlons à présent du franc CFA. Quel sera son avenir entre les mains des nouveaux élus de la zone CEMAC? Vous imaginez, après le sommet des chefs d'État qui a eu lieu à Yaoundé vendredi dernier, on a de nouvelles personnes à la tête de cette institution africaine. Le président Faustin Archange-Touadéra occupe désormais la présidence. Eh bien, est-ce que le franc CFA devrait mériter une attention particulière au cours de leur mandat?
Oui, bien évidemment, puisque moi je suis de ceux qui pensent que ces pays de la CEMAC sont déjà assez matures depuis les indépendances de pouvoir penser à avoir une monnaie, parce que on dit que nous sommes vraiment indépendants. Vous ne pouvez pas être indépendant sans avoir la maîtrise de votre monnaie. Donc moi je suis de ceux qui pensent que nous devons, ou ces pays-là devraient penser à avoir leur propre monnaie, parce que nous voyons comment est-ce que dans d'autres pays qui ont leur monnaie, qui ont la possibilité de se comparer à d'autres monnaies puissantes, comment est-ce que ça se passe. Mais si on a le franc CFA qui est géré soit par la France, on ne peut pas dire que nous sommes indépendants. Je pense qu'il est question peut-être de ces pays-là de se focaliser. Ça doit être même le point majeur. Comment est-ce que nous pouvons avoir notre monnaie et si possible sortir de cette zone de franc, parce que c'est véritablement c'est la France qui décide de tout en ce qui concerne le franc CFA. Alors que si vraiment ces pays se disent indépendants, on devrait pouvoir penser à avoir une monnaie indépendante.
Okay. Maître Alex, the heads of states of CEMAC sub-region, they have come and gone. What is the future of the franc CFA?
What is the future of?
The franc CFA.
Well, if you read French diplomacy, if you go on their website, they will tell you that those presidents or the leaders of those French African countries mostly, they have a power to come out from the France CFA. But we know the truth is, when you want to come out from the France CFA, you know what they will do. They will sankara you, as I would say. And if you look, recently they were talking about ECO in West Africa. What happened? President Ouattara and President Macron, they went to Nigeria. What happened? They stopped it. My concern is that, is the franc CFA, how is it benefiting us, the people of the Cameroons? Is it benefiting us? Why is France always fighting that we should not have an independent money? And again, as I have said time and again, we in the Cameroons, we have what we call collective sovereignty, joint sovereignty. We are not independent. And to me personally, my interpretation of Article 5 of the Cameroon Constitution, which says the president shall guarantee the independent and territorial integrity. What they are doing in CEMAC is a breach of the Constitution of the Cameroons. I made it clear that United Kingdom came out from Europe because they agreed a trade agreement, and later on they realized what was happening was what? Federal Republic of Europe. We are Federal Republic of Central Africa. Why? We have a common military. Take note, people don't know that. We have common money. We have we have a parliament in the CEMAC system. We have a justice system. We have monetary union. The point is, we have like Minister of Finance in Cameroon. He hasn't got powers. He cannot determine our monetary policy. He cannot determine our interest rate. It has to be collective inside CEMAC. So we keep on saying that we are independent, but most people don't know we are not independent.
So how do we get out? Like, how do we get out of this whole quagmire or the issues that you are talking about? Because apparently there's no way.
The problem is our people don't talk. Our learned scholar, professors like constitutional expert, Bigumu, Jean-Marie, Joseph Owena, they know what's going on. Have you ever seen them coming, talking or saying something? Those are my lecturers. They know what is happening. We are selling our sovereignty. And if you read since 1960, they tried. This is something that they have been trying before we had independence. They tried it, but those newly elected presidents in Africa, they said no then. So they have tried. It's a continuation of UDF, this CEMAC. CEMAC came with it in 1994 and became expert in 1999. And most people don't know this. The problem why they could not make a Federal Republic of Central Africa was why? Because of the Anglophones. And there was a project before 1959. That's when they have the cooperation agreement. It was a plan before independence. And after the independence, what happened? The Federal Republic of Cameroon. Then they changed the United Republic of La République du Cameroon. So then now, after they have done as what Paul Biya said in France, that they try to assimilate Anglophones, they have succeeded in that phase now. Then now they have CEMAC. Now, that's the last phase. And that's what in 1999 that it became effective. The problem is we are constructing a Federal Republic of Central Africa. And it's not me, Metro Alex Lissinger, saying it. There are a lot of scholars who have written about the joint sovereignty and collective sovereignty. At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong to cooperate with your partners. But if you want to bring fundamental change in a country, what you have to do, you need a referendum to ask the people. So to me, the president of the Republic of Cameroon is in breach of the constitution of our country. I heard him, he was talking about they should accelerate the passport. Mr. Lasha, how many people in Cameroon travel? Is passport important in that country, to be honest? People need electricity, water, and other basic necessities, but they are talking about passport. One, we don't have roads that go to Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, or other countries surrounding us. You're talking about trying to make do something, create a rocket, when the little things, the basic things we cannot do. If you travel among European Union countries, you cannot distinguish because the roads are interlinked. We don't have that type of development. We must first of all develop our countries before we start thinking of whether we want to join other countries, have joint sovereignty. Because I don't mind us joining sovereignty in future with Nigeria, Morocco, Egypt, have a common currency in Africa. That is for the future, not for now. And as things stand, we are not independent. And I still stand to be corrected by any expert constitutional lawyer in the Cameroon. It's a very sad thing because we don't understand. Somebody can just free movement. You can just travel from Chad to Cameroon and vice versa to other parts of Central African countries. Have we got that capability to look people who are criminals to make sure they don't travel within that zone? We don't have that capability. So we should not just be copy and paste like the European Union. They have that power, they have the capability. At the end of the day, it is very important that the people of the Cameroons, they must have a say. Again, something I always talk. When you look at the money, I don't know if they have put English on the money now because you have a new money. How can we, Anglophones, we are in the country, there is no English on the money? Why? Does that make sense? So it's very important. Why is it that it's only French on a currency? Does that make sense to us? So these are things that they have to be addressed by the government. We, the constitution says we are all equal in that country.
Thank you.
Equality is not just writing something on a piece of paper and say we are equal. We don't see that equality. And there's a real problem about CEMAC. I'm not a fan of CEMAC. If I was in the position of that CEMAC, I will make sure we come out of CEMAC because it's not good for anything. I've seen the project, what they are talking about, free movement of people, accelerate economic recovery. Mr. Biya, President Sassou Nguesso, you go again, Obiang Gema, averagely they have been in power each, averagely for all those CEMAC presidents, 35 years. It did not take, most in the Western country, people have 2 terms, maybe 4 terms, 4 years, 8 years in office. And they do a lot. So you cannot be in power for 40 years. Then you're talking about creating an airline. Is an airline rocket science? No.
Okay.
You're talking about what? Semantic creation of mobile what? All the things you're talking about, some countries, they take it 1 year and they do that. If you have 40 years in power, you cannot do that. Mr. Lasha, this is just whitewash.
Okay.
And again, most of the things they are talking about, they say what? Promise. What's promise, Mr. Lasha? We were promised deep sea for 30 years ago in Victoria. Have we got it? No. We were promised railroad. How many years again? 30 years ago. Have we got railroad? No. So
I will come back to you.
President, they come and talk about promise.
Thank you.
We
Thank
just
you.
know we are wasting our time.
Thank you. I will come back to you. Probably our time is almost up. Barrister Tamfu, before we go, we talk about this professor that was killed in Bamenda, shot and killed by suspected Ambazonia fighters, and let's equally talk about Abdul Karim, the Muslim scholar who was arrested and taken to Yaoundé. He will appear before the military tribunal in Yaoundé today. Before that, comment on this issue of the professor before Abdul Karim.
Yes, it's regrettable. It's very sad. You know, human life is sacred, and any life that is lost just like that should disturb anyone, because I'm not in support of people who just decide to take people's life. I value life so much, and to hear that a professor was killed by separatists, to me, I condemn it to the highest term, because I don't see how killing the professor is bringing their revendications to the front line. So it's sad that we have reached to that level. We ought not to have reached to that level if we were in a country that was able to listen to its own population. It's regrettable. There are the consequences. We only have to see or continue to pressure on the government who is on an upper side to make sure that we have a definite peace in those two regions. So it's sad and it's regrettable. And concerning Abdul Karim, who is going to court, is funny because this is somebody that is seen and considered by almost everybody that is a peace advocate. I have not seen him in any violent activities. He has always preached peace, and he has always asked the government that he thinks that the best approach to the ongoing crisis was not the military option, because you only know when a war starts, but you never know when it comes to an end. So he has been a peaceful advocate. He has been not violent at all. So I have the regret that today
but
he has to...
some of his declarations, what he used to say, the choice of his words, could that not be the reasons why he was arrested and taken? Some of his words could actually stir violence or cause people anger.
Some of his words which are violent, I don't know. Is it strange if you called or if you refer to some people, maybe these are former Southern Cameroonians? Is it strange? These are terminologies that have existed. So if he has decided to use those appellations or to remain with those appellations, I don't see how saying that is rendering or making him violent. And we know the circumstances that surrendered his arrest without no due process, detained without no due process. And if today he's standing before an examining magistrate at the level of the military court, I don't see the reason why he should even be there, because the charges who are brought against him are just truncated charges. We all know that they are all frame-up charges. All I can only wish him is that let him continue to be strong. You know, he's a Muslim scholar, and I strongly believe that God being on his side, he'll be able to make his way out.
Why take him to military court anyway? Was he seen with a gun and somewhere? What actually?
Yes, we know that's the treatment that befall to any of
treason, probably.
Yes,
the 2014 law on terrorism.
That is what befalls on every citizen that is arrested in the English regions and that is suspected of maybe having any activity with terrorism or any activity with separation. They will just pick you up and attack you those offenses without proper investigation. So it's no surprise we have had people who have been arrested just like that, without no tangible facts. And once the person is not complying to your exigency, you tag him an Ambazonian, you tag him a separatist, and you are being sent to court. We have had cases of innocent citizens who have been sent to the military court simply because maybe they were asked for money and they could not pay, and they said, okay, I'll henceforth tag you a terrorist or a secessionist under before the court.
Thank you, Barrister Tamfu Richard, for coming. Thank you to Maitre Alex Ndive for your contributions this morning, and of course we are hoping to be back tomorrow, televiewers. The program was produced for us by Christain, Tebong. Etape, Quentin assisted me with the presentation. Tomorrow is another day. Bye-bye from this end.